Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? How was your Memorial Day?
It was fantastic. I was going to just ask you, what did you do?
We actually had people over. We had a good crew. We had family, friends. We had several over and cooked, and I ate, I drank bone broth today. I ate so much, stuff I never even really eat that much of. I ate yesterday all day too. It was like an all day, all night eating fest, but it was good. And we ended up having great weather in Charleston. It was kind of looking iffy, and it ended up being nice.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell me some of the food. I love food. You know, I'm a foodie. So tell me some of your food.
Oh my gosh, I made a ton of stuff. Well, we fixed chicken and chicken wings and hamburgers, but then I made pasta salad, a new pineapple salsa, country green beans, with a ham hock in them and everything. It was so good.
Only us Southern people would understand that ham hock thing.
They're literally everybody's favorite thing that they had. What else did I have? Deviled eggs, of course. I say pasta salad, homemade macaroni and cheese. I mean, just all of it. And then people brought desserts. So we had one of those Caitlin made those sugar cookie American flag cakes. Somebody else made, Amelia's little girlfriend brought over some Butterfinger crack thing. I don't know. It was ice cream sandwiches layered with whipped cream with Butterfingers sprinkled all in. It was I don't even, and then a banana pudding. Just everything.
Sounds fantastic.
We had buffalo chicken with 19 appetizers. So I ate all the appetizers, then I ate the dinner, and then I had to try every dessert. I was sick last night. And Adam said, I don't even want to hear it. I knew this was going to happen.
Or do you do like me? I lay in bed oh, don't touch my stomach.
Yes.
Don't touch my stomach.
Last night I was don't even move. I literally feel if the bed moves, I'm going to puke.
That's so funny. Yeah. Well, and probably gained 7 pounds.
I feel just I just had to wear a poofy skirt today. I was I'm not even trying to do it. But I had bone broth for lunch, and just
the thing is, you correct it in a day or two. Just get back on wagon.
It is. Yeah.
So you and I were just at the big event that we did, the mega agent mastermind in Ohio Valley, and it was spectacular. Oh my God.
It was incredible. For the first time, it was amazing. For the first go round, I'm usually sometimes your first time's iffy. Just they knocked it out of the park. It was so great.
Yeah, we had great panelists. We had John Maxwell, who, gosh, God, you got to love John. He is the most giving human being, I think, of anybody I know.
Yeah.
When we put the event together, we didn't really know we kind of thought John had to fly right in and fly out. And so we didn't make any promises about if you'd get any pictures with him. And I bet we did a reception. We did a VIP party the night before, which was at this brewery, and it was fantastic. It was awesome. Yeah. And everybody kept coming up to me and going, oh my God, you don't understand. John's been my mentor since I've been this age. Or, oh my God, I've got to get a picture with John. And I'm about to die because we have no commitment from John. And he wasn't supposed to be there till 10:30. And he got there at 9. And so I said, John, you must have been anxious to be with us as we were with you. But he comes in and he said, I'm here to serve your people. What do you need? Oh, thank God. So we took a break so that people could get pictures with him. And I thought, he is, I don't know, how old do you think he is? 70 something?
Yeah, I think he just turned 76.
76. Yeah. And I look at him and I go, it has to be a calling because, he doesn't, it's not, he doesn't need the money. And you're he gives so much. At our lunch with our panelists and stuff, he was just, I don't know. I observed him. I'm at a stage in my life where I try to watch the backstage of what people do, not just what you hear on the front side. But I learned so many lessons about how to serve others by watching him. I tried to pay attention to, like, when he was on stage, he made the host feel so amazing. He made the other speakers feel so amazing. And I thought, and he made the guy that was painting his story feel like amazing on cloud nine. Wade sent us a message. Wade is a guy that he actually will draw out whatever your talk is. And so John's talk was leadership.
He's an infographicist or something like that. Infographist is what, I don't know, but yes, that's right.
Well, anyway, he said to us, we brought him up on stage and let him explain to John what he did, because John had no idea that this was a surprise gift for John.
So cool.
The donations to equip and the big board with his talk drawn out on it. And he made that guy feel so amazing. And Wade said, I've done a lot of drawings for a lot of people. No one's ever brought me up on stage and made me feel like I felt. I mean, he sent us thank yous after he left in text, and just, it was, I can't even imagine.
And the Brittany girl in the audience, the Brittany
oh yeah,
lady
they brought her 2 books.
Yeah, remember, I mean, he didn't have to do that. Everybody probably, you know what I mean? I mean, he didn't, I thought as soon as he did that, I thought he did not even have to do that.
Yeah. So I thought, you know what, he's a great example of how to make people feel like $1 million and how to serve people. It was just, my other big aha from the whole event was, because I told you I was reading this book, and you and I are going to do an episode on it called The Good Life, about how they did these research and the study on really what makes a good life. What is it, and what causes people to be happy, and what causes people to be unhappy, and all those things. And I realized from that event how much we need community. Everybody there seemed like they needed to be around other people. There were such great conversations going on the side. The panelists were learning from each other. People were learning from the panelists. I said, that's a lot of work to do that. And I know the team worked their fanny off to do it, and they did an amazing job. But I don't know how we could not do that, because if you think about it, only 10% of our people ever make it to the big events.
Yep.
And so if you do it locally and regionally, now you got 10% of that amount of people that's from your territories that can make it. So I don't know. I thought it was amazing. And I thought our panelists were just over the top.
They really, it was funny, because I had a couple of agents say to me, the first parts are only going to be 20 minutes each. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but just wait, like and what was just mind blowing is how much you could get out of somebody in 20 minutes when they really show up and bring value. And every single one of them did. I mean, from Dan to Ken to it was just, they just knocked it out of the park. I just thought it was so good. But, I agree with that, Linda. I think a lot of people, they want to get in a room again. They want to be in a room, I mean, I think they still want the convenience of Zooming on certain things, when they can. But I think on bigger things like that, they want to get in a room.
Yeah. It was fun. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what the team does next year. I said, I'm going to have to go out and try to meet some powerful people between now and next year, because I called in my one favor from John.
I know. Press was like, what are we going to do to top that?
I don't know. So I also thought it was really good. Christina something Grossman. I never can say her last name right. Hopefully you have it written down.
Grossman. Yeah.
What's her name?
Christy Grossman, I believe.
Christy Grossman. Ops boss. Yes. I thought that was a great touch too, because of a couple of reasons. One, your people that are on your ops team need to be on stage too. And so to get to do a breakout, she did a great session herself talking about the importance of, your operations team and things like that. And maybe you got some good notes from that. And just to be able to highlight some of your operations people don't understand that sometimes glue to hold your team together isn't just more money.
Right.
Bringing them to events where they get poured into, that's glue for you to keep your ops team. putting them on stage, that's glue to keep your ops team. It doesn't always just have to be more money or more raises. I think it'd be a lot harder for your operations team to leave you if you were pouring into them learning base wise, and if you were pouring into them and giving them a chance to be on a platform. Even though they all said they were nervous and weren't used to being on stage, I didn't see one of them that didn't love it.
Yeah, we had Buffy Kirkman from one of my market centers on there, and she was a nervous right before. And I was like, girl, you are going to do so, like, you have more value to offer than some of these, most of the Rainmaker, because you're the one that knows how everything's getting done, you know, and they did great. But, you know, I had a huge aha from Christy when she was talking. And I had a couple, and I was looking through my notes. She said, life-giving leaders are into people growth, and they learn to partner with their ops boss, not like treat them as an assistant, basically. And then she gave like 4 key things, which I don't have all the, I can't go, we don't have time to go through all those. But the one thing that I took away was number 2, the education budget. And she said it's where you give them a budget annually.
Love that.
Yes, but what they attend is 100% at their discretion. Well, I had our ops bosses in the room that day, and of course they loved it and they were all glad to be there. But I thought I usually kind of tell them what to go to or bring them along on something that I think they would like. But what if I did what she did and gave them a budget, and then they picked what they wanted to go to education wise, you know, instead of feeling like, oh, well, I have to go to this, which of course they didn't feel like that with this event, because they were just so pumped to see John. But
and did she say they earned those, or wasn't there a way also they earned more?
They can earn more, when the goals are hit. So like I just found them like the 4 things were do the 2, like have a weekly 90-minute meeting. And then it's their meeting, like their agenda, you know, and then you have another one that's just their meeting. Like you have a 90-minute meeting on the business, and then you have another one that's just about them. Then number 2 was the education budget. You should start with something, but then as the goals are met, as the profits increase, you increase the budget amount. And then number 3 was work on the relationship like you do your business. And then number 4 was clarity on winning, like exactly what their KPIs are and, you know, how they win in the role, which sometimes for people like you and I feel like it's kind of hard to do that, you know, to say like exactly when it comes to the administrative side, you know, because I feel like I'm just more like have in the past been just catch everything, you know, just like don't let anything drop, or like just here's all these ideas and go implement them, instead of actually really saying here's what winning really looks like for you in the role.
Well, you know, I love that. Number one, I felt like an epic failure after her talk.
Oh, I did too.
I felt like, okay, I suck as a boss, but I vacillate between Dan Sullivan and Gary Keller. Gary Keller said this before too. You know, they get self-managed people. And
totally.
So I really struggle because that's the kind of people I want, right? Yeah. But on the other hand, when I hear her say things like that, I'm like, God, I think I suck as a boss, right? Because I go so fast that I don't think sometimes I give enough clarity around, or I give them too much autonomy for all that stuff. And I think if it's the right kind of person, maybe they need that, they do okay with that. And then some people don't do okay with that. But I think you also have to check, who are you? I don't think I could be somebody, if I had to, I don't know, if I had to manage too much. I just don't think those are the kind of people I do well with leading, you know. And like Dan said about Kathy, he says, Kathy knows everything I'm doing. I don't want to know anything she's doing, you know. So it's kind of hard because I vacillate between the two. But I did write down, Linda, get an ops boss coach for me, help me be a better ops boss.
Yeah, I know, that's true. That is a really great aha. Because what did he say? He said, because our job as the leader is to clear the smoke, cast the vision, and then remove the roadblocks, which I do feel like is something that you and I both do.
Yeah. But you know what? I just had an aha. Because I always think of myself and think, okay, what can you see John leading his ops team? No. Or Gary or Dan Sullivan? No. So I think what you and I are missing, Dana, is the person in between us.
Totally agree.
We're
Yeah.
missing a person in between us that person loves to do all those things.
Yeah.
I honestly do. Because
They
I
like
think
to
about
do
it
the
with,
two and give the education budget and give clarity on winning and work on building their relationship. Yeah.
yes. I mean, I think honestly, when I really reflect, because I think if I was going to do something, I would have already. I always say that, but I know it's true about myself. And I don't want to spend time working on my weaknesses. So then I
Yeah.
think I'm missing a who. I think that
Yep.
I need a who that loves all those things and that would get filled up by doing all that stuff. And they only report to me.
Yeah. We should have Christy on the podcast so we can ask her these questions.
Oh yeah, I think I already asked her and she said, yeah, so let's do that. Let's put her on there. Oh, good
Oh
idea.
yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, I'll write that down too.
That's a great idea. Yes, great idea. Okay,
Ask
so
her all these questions that we have.
should we keep sucking or should we try to fix ourselves? But I really do. The leaders I love to follow, they do the thing that is not a problem for them to do, that they love to do, that gives them energy to do. They don't sit around and try to say, oh, I suck at that. Let me do that. I think what you do is, well, if you think about it, it's kind of the way our offices are designed. There's no way I could be the team leader. So you go get a team leader and you could be the operating principal, right? So I think it's the same way there, right? And and the team leader loves holding the team accountable, setting the goals and doing all that stuff. And I love being responsible to one person, one high-minded, self-managed person. So I think you got to be honest with yourself, but let's get Christy on here. We'll ask her to dig deeper.
We will. Okay. I just actually sent her stuff and wrote that down to see if Heather, we can get her for soon. That'll be really good. Yeah. And her resume is impressive, by the way.
Yeah.
It's really good. Really, really good. Okay. Before we we kind of touched on her and went a little bit out of order, but anything you had or wanted to mention from Dan Holt and our friends, Dan Holt and Ken Pozek?
Well, Dan Holt was real short and to the point. Thoroughbreds don't like to be with donkeys and donkeys don't like to be with thoroughbreds. It was such a good visual. His slides were simple. He only had a few, but they were so spot on because I think sometimes as leaders, we don't realize that when we put a donkey in with our thoroughbreds, how much damage it does to the thoroughbreds. And it's not a good thing for the donkey either. So I think that was a huge, visual that once you see it, you can't unsee it. And he just had a picture of thoroughbreds and a donkey trying to run with them, and it wasn't working very well.
Yeah.
So that was the main thing I got from him. What'd you get?
Yeah, I loved that too. Very similar. He was short and to the point, but impactful. And the other thing I got from him was just talking about standards. And you and I've talked a lot about standards, on the podcast. But he said something that I don't know, for some reason it kind of stuck with me. And he said that number one, the standard is the lowest thing that you'll accept. Okay, well, we've heard that before. We know that. So, but sometimes we think that then the standard actually is the goal, which is not the reality. The standard is like the bare bones lowest that you will accept. And when he talked about standards, though, he said there were two different kinds. The standards that are the numbers that are written down, but then you have the second thing was you have unspoken standards. And those are just how you show up, be it from what you wear to, how you act to what the standard is for your attitude or, the way you talk or whatever it is. And I just love the way that he kind of separated those two, because I've never really thought about it like that. Because you have standards that are written down that are the numbers that this is the standard. But I find myself sometimes saying, and this is terrible, that why don't they know that they shouldn't dress like that when they're on the staff? Or why do they know that they should not send an email with all capital letters screaming at people, and so it was funny because I looked over and it was either Heather or Nancy one that they said, this is what you talk about all the time. We just haven't set a standard for it because it's an unspoken standard. And sometimes we assume that people would know those things, but maybe, and obviously they don't sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I think we all tend to think other people are just like we are. We have sense. We know not to do that, but that's not necessarily the case, especially as new generations come in. It's completely different from where they came from. But I also always remember, and Gary said this to me years ago when he was coaching me, he said, your minimum will always be somebody else's maximum.
Yeah.
So we have to, and again, I think it goes back to not having good processes for, when people come on board, that's the kind of stuff that they read it right away and they understand and they know, right? But I think you and I have to have it happen a couple times and they go, well, crap, why does this keep happening? We must not have been clear somewhere about this.
Yeah.
But it always goes back to something we did not express or tell them or explain or have them understand on the front end.
Yep.
It's harder. It's harder to go back and implement a standard after you haven't done it.
Oh,
it's easier to do it on the front end. It's so much easier to do it on the front end.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Well, I think too, like I even struggle with, then I think people take it personal, or I don't know if it's not done on the front end and you're coming back and implementing, but yeah, I think either way, I left kind of like Christy, where I thought, gosh, I don't know that I'm a great boss. And then after this, I kind of thought, gosh, I don't feel like we have enough standards. I mean, I feel like we just need to get better with our standards, was kind of how I left feeling after Dan's talk.
But I also think that's more of an operations person that would think of that stuff.
Yeah.
Remember, we're multipliers. A simplifier would think of that. A multiplier isn't going to think of that. And you and I are multipliers. We're just so moving forward to try to grow the business that's a simplify activity that would make something simpler later down the road if you do on the front end. So again, I think we're missing the right who in between us that they are responsible for making sure those kind of things are in place. And when do they get them? When they onboard them or when they're in their first 90 days or whatever.
Yep. I totally agree. Yeah. Yep. Ken, we could do it. We've had Ken on as a guest a couple of times and we could go, I could talk for 3 hours about Ken. My biggest thing about Ken is he just has built such an incredible business. It's so huge. And I hear so many agents say, I don't know one person here, so I don't feel like I can be successful, or I'm not from here. I don't have a database here, so I can't be successful. And every time I say, go Google and watch Ken Pozek on YouTube, just what he's done is insane. He didn't know a soul in Orlando and he's going to close he's 140 million, I think already this year. He's going to be at 6 million GCI this year. And that was only like 6 or 7 years ago that he moved there. Yeah. It's just incredible. But I love that he just thinks so much bigger. And for years, he's talked about this. And so now it's cool for me to see it come to fruition. But like, he has a real estate team, but he is a media company. And that's what drives his business. Yeah. And the fact I just had my notes on this, dang it. And I don't think I have them. I think I left them in the car. But the fact that what he spends on his, let's see, what did he say? He said he gave the statistic of the top 100 mastermind from KW Giving, what they spend on Zillow versus what he spends on the media company. And it's still it's like a fraction of the cost. It was like a 10th of what some of the people at his same production level are spending on Zillow or Realtor.com.
And he's controlling that lead and he's not going to have to worry about what happens to that lead or any money changing, cost changing. The other thing too, is I think people have to be careful because if you Google Ken right now, and he said this, if you look at his YouTube right now, you're going to think, oh my God, this is a media company. But he didn't start like that. He said, should be. And I think so many people don't get started because they see someone else's finished product and they think that's what their beginning product. No, just go. He
started with these awkward cell phone selfie videos of his face. I remember them like this close to his phone, walking around Orlando, here's the top 3 places to eat in Orlando this week. I remember the first time he actually made a hire, I think, for a professional videographer. But, he said this, somebody sent me this from the notes. He didn't say this at the summit, I don't think. But from that time until today, he has posted 525 professional videos, I think it was. But before that, I don't even know the number of just him on his phone. So you're exactly right.
Yeah. And I think that would cause a lot of people to not get started. And the trick is to get started And matter of fact, who is it that says, if you're not embarrassed or ashamed of your first video, it's, you waited too late to start.
Jenna Kutcher, I think maybe was the one who said that. Yeah.
So I think
I
we
agree with
keep
that.
waiting to be perfect, or to think, well, I can't do that because I can't, have a media company. Well, he didn't have one either in the beginning.
No, I did find interesting that he said that, and he showed stats on this, but that no one really watches the traditional media as much anymore. That people are like, remember when he asked in the news in the room, raise your hand if you watch the news every day, if you watch Fox, CNN, or NBC or whatever every single day, and like 3 people raised their hand. And then he said, raise your hand if you're on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook at least once a day. And like the entire room raised their hand. And he said, this is the new media. Like we have to get stuck in the thinking of traditional media. And really we have to think about the new media, because that's what people actually want to watch. And it's what they're engaging in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really, that was a big aha for me. And I like that he said, document, don't create, which I think is a Gary V quote. But just like we get so hung up, kind of like you said, on thinking we have to create all this stuff, but just document what you're doing and just do it. You don't necessarily, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. The other thing I picked up from him and from on one of the Danny Barron that was on his panel is they are so confident in themselves. Like they even share with, like Ken was sharing so freely with all of our agents, like holding nothing back. And same thing with Danny Barron. Danny said his last event, he invited realtors and everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that's such a giving spirit. And I'm thinking, what an amazing group of people we have, that nobody is thinking, oh, I can't share everything because someone else might do it. They're just giving it all away and saying, I wish you the best. If I can help you, let me know. I just think that just warms my heart, to be honest with you. Because I started at a time when no one would share their secrets because they were afraid if they did, somebody else would get ahead of them. And I just feel like your world gets so much bigger when you can get to a place where you're so confident about what you're doing that you don't worry about sharing and giving it all. And then all of a sudden your life just gets bigger and bigger. Because I think both of them get tons of referrals.
Well, Ken's business was 23%. 23% of his 140 million was agent to agent referrals. And majority of them, from within the KW ecosystem, which I think was one of the big reasons why he left and then came back. But you just made me think of, I know what I was going to say. I had it and then I lost it. Now I had it again. We talk about that in our influence course. It's exactly like the law of reciprocity. I mean, what they do is exactly that. Like they're giving so freely and it just all comes back to them. And I think that is it's so great. That's why they're 2 of my favorite people to ever work with, because they share everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was really good to see all of them getting stuff from each other, because the thing about those panelists is they don't get paid money to do that. Yes, we pay expenses for them to get there. And I wanted them to as much get rewarded as anything, because we weren't paying them money to be there. And so that's why we, at lunch had John sit down and sit with as many of them as he could, and to spend time with him, because, that was really generous of them to fly and do that and give of their time to do that.
Yeah, it was great. It was, I actually had texts from both Roger Wilcutt and Lori Lynn saying, like, what an amazing event. Thanks for, giving my name to be on. I was so proud to be a part of it and hope that someone took home something really helpful. I actually got a lot out of it too, which was great. I mean, like they truly did, it was just, it's great. It's so cool. Well, did you, any other big things? I know we kind of talked about John in the beginning. Anything big from John that you had noted? Just
I was mostly trying to observe John as a leader, to learn more leadership for myself. And I just couldn't quit smiling, because I was just so happy to see everybody so happy. Just to see everybody just so thankful and so appreciative and getting so much out of it. I'm just looking for my notes here with John. So you go ahead and go first, because I did have a lot from him, and I hear him a lot, and I was shocked at some of the things that I heard that I didn't hear before.
his main kind of spiel was how to pivot successfully, and really, going through a change and being able to pivot quickly as a leader. And so he said, if you are in leadership, then you have to LeaderShift at the same time. Now he did say leadership also, yeah, which totally cracked me up. And it's funny because he said, if you're in leadership, you're also in the leader shit part too. And I did think it was so funny. I'd never heard him say this before. Did you hear him say it was like Moses at the Red Sea thinking like, why must I always go first? And he said, yes, you're a leader, you feel like that too. I was like, yes, me.
Yes, so true. That's where you and I look around and go, where's the adult or adult? Oh crap, I'm it. I gotta go.
Yeah, that's right. I know, that's right. But yeah, I loved that he said, I mean, he gave us tons of those, but he talked about the cycle of success. And really a lot of it for me, was just like, and I had this conversation today with Nancy, and it's so funny because she helps run our teams. And she said, I feel like where we've missed the mark the last couple months is we were just going and going and going. And if we failed, then we just fixed it along the way. And she's like, and then I feel like over the last 3 or 4 months now, we slowed down and we aren't going. And she said, and I feel like we've gone backwards a little bit. And she said, it's just like what John said. If you aren't constantly testing and then failing, yes, and then learning. And she said, I think we just need to get back to like, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just need to test it and do it. And if we fail, we'll pivot and change. And that really hit me because he said, you have to be willing to test a lot, which means then you're going to fail a lot, which means then you have to learn from it and then you improve it and then you like start all over again. And I think leaders that aren't willing to do that, they don't pivot and they don't shift like they should. And it worries me, especially going into to a shifting kind of time that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think someone like John, when you look at his history and how long he's probably seen so many shifts, that, he doesn't lose his cool. He doesn't lose his calling. He doesn't lose his mission or his purpose. And I think so many people don't get clear about that stuff first. And until you're really clear about that, you're going to be in chaos when things shift.
Yeah.
If you're real clear about what you're here to do, and yes, all of a sudden, things have to change on how you do it. Like one of the things he said was during COVID, he had all these things booked that just all got canceled. He said, but they shifted and all of it. And the last thing you'd be thinking about was he started giving away free Zoom meetings with companies.
I remember this.
And then immediately from that, he got this huge paid event.
Yeah.
So I think what happens when things shift and people get nervous, they move into scarcity rather than think, okay, how could I just be abundant in this and see what happens?
Yeah. Well, and one thing that he said too, that I really liked that kind of goes with that was live in today, but think about tomorrow. Yes. And so often we're just like living for tomorrow, and instead of, okay, like let's live in today, we can think about tomorrow and think about the future, but actually figure out, he said, you always have to be thinking about what others are thinking about if you want to be successful. And so he said, you really have to go and you have to live in today, but be thinking about tomorrow. And I don't know, that just hit me really good because I think over the last couple of years too, we just get so wrapped up in like what's happened in the past, and then we're like too worried about tomorrow, but we aren't really focusing on today, like being in the today, especially with the people that we lead.
Mm-hmm. One thing that was kind of said on the sidebar with Caroline, the girl that does the luxury, hers was on what, customer service?
Yeah.
I think it was the night before or something, we were somewhere, and she said that she was at some event, and this really hit me. She said, they made you answer all these questions as if it was 10 years from now. And it was like, what are you doing? How old is your spouse? How old is your kids? And I thought, gosh, we don't spend enough time thinking about that, because what I keep going back to with Dan and John and Gary and different great leaders that I truly admire, they're not so busy. I remember being in Israel with John, and COVID was happening, And John never misses a beat, and his team around him was scurrying. You couldn't really tell it, but they were scurrying, and he didn't get out of his lane.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we have got to stop long enough to say, okay, I'm in this kind of gerbil wheel right now. What would be my way out of this? What do I want to be doing more of? What do I want to, because what happens is 10 years happens faster than you even realize. And we haven't even clarified what things we want to take off our plate, or what things other people should be doing, or what are the only things I love doing that I want to do. And I just notice them be where they're supposed to be. They are in the present. Well, you can't be in the present if you got 50 million things you're going on at one time or supposed to be doing.
Did she have like a list of questions? I must have missed.
Yeah, I'm gonna text her and ask her if she remembers that list, or if she still has it. But you just literally go out 10 years and you write how old you are, how old your spouse is, what's going on, what's happening. And it makes you realize, it's kind of like the book we were talking about, Outlive, where it talks about we got to think about what you want to be able to do when you're 100 and start doing it now.
I'm reading that right now, by the way.
Oh, good. So good.
Yeah. Some of it's like a little bit over my head, but the majority of it is very good.
Yeah. So I think that one sidebar conversation with her, I told her, I think you and I could be best friends. We just met. I mean, I just loved her, I said, you need to come to the beach house with me.
Yeah.
She just I love her. She just, I don't know. She just, you and I could hang with her for sure. Anyway, great. But it was just that one moment of thinking, Linda, when do you slow down long enough to do that? That's what you need to be doing right now, because nothing is going to change if I don't make a conscious effort to say, okay, this week, what I wrote out for 10 years from now, am I even close, or what's got to get off my schedule, or what's got to change for me to be where I say I want to be in 10 years. But anyway, I'll get the questions from her and we'll read them on the podcast. Yeah, that'd be perfect. But it was a sidebar comment, but it really stuck with me that, and she's the one that recommended the book, The Good Life.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And someone else had just recommended the book called Strength to Strength, which is by the same author. And I had started it, so I grabbed The Good Life too. But I think, yes, we need to spend appropriate amount of time in the future deciding what it needs to look like.
Yeah, totally.
And we need to check ourselves in the present and say, how close to that future am I actually, or how far away am I, and what do I need to get off my plate or changed so that I am closer to what I say that I want that future to be.
Yep.
And then let go of the past. Just let go of the past. Don't even spend time there.
Totally agree.
Awesome. All right. Any final comments as we wrap up about the event? It was a great event. We had people actually even fly in from other regions. There was people from Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was awesome. Michigan. Yeah, it was great. No, I thought it was wonderful. I thought there was just so much value. It's hard to unpack all of it in one episode, but it was everybody did so good.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great time. People were really needing, I think with the atmosphere that's going on in the marketplace, people were needing to be poured into and to be around other people. There's something about when change is happening, we need to be around other people.
Yep, I agree.
We need to just check ourselves and say, hey, how are you doing? And how can I help you? And then take the focus off yourself by trying to help someone else. And then in return, it'll happen for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So remember, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and hit that button below. And if you have a comment, a question, or a challenge, or a guest that you would like for Dana and I to interview on the podcast, be sure and reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. And Dana, I guess I'm excited. I guess I'll see you next week at the Highlands.
Yeah.
We'll do a roundtable with John Maxwell and Henry Cloud. And maybe we can get a quick meeting with John Addison. So if we do that, we'll bring a lot of we'll take great notes and bring a lot of great stuff back to you for the podcast.
Yeah, we'll have a ton of stuff from that. That'll be awesome. Yes.
All right. See you next week.
All right. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.